This podcast is made possible by the generosity of listeners and viewers like you. Kindly consider a contribution through Patreon or PayPal. Links are in the details box. Any amount is appreciated. And follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. The handle, the Beirut Banyan. Rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. And to stay updated with video releases, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for listening, and thanks for watching. I'm Rani Shatar, and this is the Beirut Banyan.
I'm not running for parliament because I'm an expert in environmental technologies. Okay? I'm running for parliament because I am sick and tired of seeing this dynamic society, this talented population, either go down the tubes or just pack and go. And I came to the conclusion that if we don't take matters into our own hands soon, we don't have the luxury of time anymore. This country is going to become a shithole. Like, literally. We are being run and managed. I don't want to use the term led. There are no leaders, no proper leaders in this country. They will kill us all. They plundered every resource that we have. I mean, this is unheard of. A whole population subjected to a Ponzi scheme. It's a whole population, They were attracting foreign Lebanese expat money into that game.
Yeah.
And now look what they're trying to do. They're trying to get away with murder. This is one. Two, I don't see anyone in government right now having the talent or the know-how to put the country back on its feet economically.
No one in the current lineup even gets close to that.
Listen, Ronnie.
Yeah.
We have this. This reminded me, that the poster we have behind about the war.
Yeah.
Who won the war? The militias.
This is actually a very nice way to start a conversation because you've done. I'm interrupting you deliberately because you're taking me back already to the 1970s, and I respect this because you're not focusing in only on the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And your perspective is wider. But off the top, I'm going to say two things. I don't think that's true.
No, which one? Which part?
Both.
That the militia won?
Yeah, and that there's no one competent. I'm going to be very delicate in this journey with you. And of course, I'll go back to your own pursuit right now.
Who? Who do you think is competent?
Go. Okay, let's,
economically, I'm just saying economically.
I think there are at least 3 ministers in this current cabinet that are probably more reflective of the aspirations we both have than the rot. And I'll throw names. I mean, we can make it personal.
Yeah.
Somebody that I think of as from the October 17 crowd is the Minister of Environment.
Nasser, yeah. Yeah, Nasser is a good friend.
Okay, so Nasser, let's say we can disapprove of certain things. Maybe we can criticize him in certain ways, but I think his principles are clear, and I think he's competent enough.
Listen, I think for someone like Nasser who came out, who did not come from a technological background or environmental background, I think he's doing super for what he's doing.
That's well said.
What I was talking about is more on we are in deep shit economically.
Yeah.
There's no one with a clear vision of what to do and what this country is gonna be for the next 20 years.
Yeah.
I'd be really curious to know who you think has the knowledge, has the balls to say tag along. I'm taking you there.
The voices that I think that are competent, they're not great, are him. I think Firas Abyad is fine. He may not be a shining star in his current capacity, but he has proven to be at least competent.
Yeah, but
in
these
managing.
two guys that are not in the economic,
Saad al-Shami. Now, he's a controversial character, maybe, because he slips from time to time on TV. He may say things that are, perhaps in his mind, they're actually true, but it's not really what a politician would say. It's more like what an accountant would say.
Yeah, he's a technocrat.
He's a technocrat, and I think he's actually probably one of the most, if not the most, competent minister right now.
Yeah.
And he's from a party that I do not associate with when it comes to reform. The Syrian Socialist Nationalist Party.
Oh, wallah.
He's their guy. Now, he's Miati's preferred pick on that list. He's the deputy prime minister. I can't stand anyone in that party. But then, here comes somebody who's doing his job appropriately. And you can criticize him too. Now, that's at least three in a government that has also contributed to our demise. I don't know why somebody else entering parliament would do any better than these kinds of characters. Where they're limited, they're small in numbers, and then you come around post-election, the good people will face the same obstacles they're facing.
Unless they do not answer to a confessional parameter. I'm refraining from using the word leadership because 100% of our ills are due to a lack of leadership. A leader is a servant, and we have not been served.
I watched you on your in a way your first political speech that I've heard in public. It was, I think, yesterday.
Yeah.
And just al-Wati. Yes, yeah. And you mesmerize at times because I'm listening to you and it's like, that's my guy. Don't vote for me for sectarian reasons. Don't vote for me for corrupt reasons. I'm not going to do you favors. If you want to vote for me for those reasons, don't vote for me.
Yeah, exactly.
You are my guy.
And I don't want it.
And you don't want it. But I don't see you and someone like you being able to do any more than the current crowd that's still trying. That's my problem, which can go back into...
What options do we have?
Yeah, that's...
Except trying.
Yeah. Let me then... And I interrupt
But this is where I fantasize about a new parliament. If we can get 10 people in there, 10,
yeah,
just to disrupt the statu quo, just to say to Nabih Berri, we do not accept that you do a trivial hand count and you pass whatever laws that the bunch agrees upon.
Right.
And then we have like a whole freaking encyclopedia worth of laws sitting in the drawers and no one talks about and no one says anything about it. Since I started my campaign, I got really, really, really involved in the law proposition concerning the free judiciary system.
Yes, actually, you've mentioned this several times. You know what? Let's save that.
It will listen. Yeah. It will change. It will be a game changer if we can get it to pass.
Yeah. You think that would pass with with 10 MPs being able to vocalize this properly? Is that something that you can imagine?
It's not sufficient.
Yeah.
You will need MPs inside.
Yeah.
But we will need to get the people.
Right.
We need to get the people. Listen.
Yeah.
I've read the proposition. It's مفكرة قانون legal agenda.
Yes.
They did a wonderful work.
And
to the credit of the Aouniye, which
it's hard to say this.
Exactly. Using the word credit and Aouniye in the same phrase. But Marie-Claude Najem insisted, because, believe it or not, all the MPs that are on the لجنة العدل والإدارة والعدل, everybody is in there. All of them.
Yeah.
The Uwait, Hizb Allah,
Yeah.
Amal has 4 deputies on them. Hezbollah has 2. Uwait have 3. Aouniya have 3. Mustaqbal has 2.
Wow.
And then SN,
SSNP.
Aoumiyya,
Yes.
voilà. They have 1.
Yeah.
And they have a heavy hitter. They have Albert Mansour, who's not he's an intellectual and he knows his stuff.
Yeah.
But these guys have been doing a destructive job in emptying all the core of the proposal. So we would have a free judiciary system for the last 3 years and 3 months. And to the credit of Marie-Claude Najm,
yes,
she insisted that we send the proposition of the law as is to an international commission called the Commission de Venise.
Yes.
And this is an international legal body that compares whatever propositions are being put forth to parliaments with international standards. You know, they would take the legal agendas proposition and they would say, okay, let's see what's going on in Sweden, what's going on in France, what's going on in England, and let's see, do they really diverge somewhere out of that?
Right.
And even the new minister now, who is also a Aouni,
yes,
insisted that we go through the Commission de Venise review.
It's my fault for not structuring our conversation better, but I like this because it's like we're talking with each other as opposed to going down an interview standard.
Structure.
Yeah, but I'm going to try to link up a few things that have been sort of we've opened the doors to. First of all, we're both old enough to know what elections look like and how they don't necessarily translate into power. I'm going to just throw an example.
That's true.
We're both familiar with the results of 2005 and 2009. Not everyone in that crowd was bad. I know the names of these parties have become more toxic over time, and now no one has tolerance for them. But 17 years ago wasn't the case.
I don't know if Stalin was the one who came up with that, and he said, in countries like ours, the one who wins elections are not those who get the most votes, but are those who count them. And you can take that and apply it to every freaking elections we had. And it was who's counting. It's always the same parties who are counting.
You're absolutely right. But there were at least clear majorities that were not able to deliver enough reform at a time when the Syrians were leaving. They did not get their job done, and I don't think it's because they were bad people or because they did not want to do their work. And I'll add to that. You mentioned judiciary, which resonates clearly. I'm going to throw one example. We're now 7 months later, 8 months after October 2021. If I'm not mistaken, Tariq Bitar has not touched the investigation in 7 months or so. That, to me, is exactly what will happen post-elections, that good people will enter parliament and face the same wall, which is why I've asked this question to a number of people running, and funny enough, some of them were about to announce their candidacy when I asked this question, so it was a natural fit, it made sense. Why this round is different for an independent mind wanting to do good? Why does it stand out? For me, it's the same parameters, it's the same obstacles, the same walls. I don't know why this time around it's any different than 2005, 2009, or for that matter, 2018, which was one of the worst experiments in modern history, the worst type of national unity. But even then, no one could do their job properly.
Lake, can you think of one or two names in the current parliament who you think are truly independent? Because I can't.
I would go one step further. I don't think the word can be even applied to the October 17 crowd. I don't think there are independents the way that word is usually applied in Lebanon. I think there are parties that do not agree. There are groups that line themselves up accordingly, but I don't think there's a real independent. But I think within parties there are independent enough actors.
But there's always a glass ceiling, which is the ceiling put forth by the Zaim. Well, at least I can talk for myself.
Yeah.
I'm not affiliated with any political party. I don't care about any Zaim, you know.
Yeah.
I've interacted with all their players.
Yeah.
Okay. And when I started saying that the militias have won, what has won is a mindset of a militia. They all threw away the arms.
Yeah.
They all put on suits and ties.
Yeah.
But they would sit with you now. Let's pretend we're having lunch and I'm the militia. You're not gonna eat anything.
That's true.
Because because that's my mindset.
Yeah.
My mindset is to take away.
Yeah.
I cannot say in some, you know what, Ronnie needs to have a good economic outlook. Ronnie needs to have good medical care. Ronnie needs to have a free judicial system because if he gets into any kind of legal conflict, we want a just outcome of that conflict. They're incapable of doing that. And I've experienced it, you know, in the waste file, the waste management file is this exactly. It is this mentality.
Yeah.
This is where, you know, everybody's telling you, oh, it's a free economic system. It's not. It's not a free economic system.
Yeah.
It's an economic system that is monopolized by the militias.
But Ziad,
Or by the militia mentality.
we're going to get into waste management because that's clearly, I think, that's really the story at hand at how to reform something like that, given the obstacles. But
I think also that it will be the entrance for decentralization. It will force us to go for decentralization.
That's an interesting angle. But right before that, though, you referred to militias, and I think that's correct until 1990. We haven't had militias in this country for 32 years. We've had foreign armies. We've had one militia that has become, in a way, a staple of politics in this country. And I don't think the militia mindset is permanent. These parties that are out of touch at times and they're old and they're right now repugnant to a degree, none of them were militia before the Civil War.
Do you remember Ilih Bai'a?
That's awesome. That's best segue. A horrible actor.
Yeah. What really was mind-boggling for me.
Yes.
They put him in charge of the electric power dossier.
Yeah.
Ilih Bai'a became Minister of Energy.
That's true.
Walid Jumblat became Minister of the Displaced.
Yeah.
Nabih Birri.
That's true. You're right.
You know, Nabih Birri was put in charge of Maliye.
You're right.
And I remember Birri saying like a few times, flat out, he's saying, if they are stealing, I want my cut.
Yeah.
A minister of Maliye is saying, if they are stealing, I want my cut. This is the militia mindset I was talking about.
You're right, but Ilih Bai'a danced around Assad's path until he crossed the line and was eliminated. Walid Jumblat is a notorious chameleon who decides to move wherever the wind takes him, and it's out of safety and precaution. Nabih Birri is the preferred alternative to both the Syrian disorder and Hezbollah situation we have.
He's the epitome of chaos.
He's the epitome of many things, and everyone else and you're absolutely right, all of these strange characters that entered the cabinet and entered institutions, probably none of them were fit. But I really think the reason we have these kinds of characters in charge is because of one major problem that none of us has any control over. And that's why these three that I mentioned earlier, there may be others as well. I mean, Nasir Yassin is not, he's not a saint, but he's, I think, the kind of person that I would want to see even without.
Listen, Nasser doesn't have a militia mindset, by the way.
Doesn't have militia. Neither does Mary Claude Nasham.
Yeah.
She's not a militia. Yeah.
But what's their problem? The glass ceiling. The glass ceiling put forth by the militia leader.
You wouldn't put the burden more on the Syrian Hezbollah legacy. You would put it on the current Zaim more. And that's
they're all part of the same game. No, I mean, I'm not sure how accurate my dissection would be.
Yeah.
But we're only. I mean, listen. شو اسمه هيدا, what's his name? The Syrian guy, Kanaan.
Oh God.
Or the other one.
Yeah. Rustam Ghazali.
Yeah. You think these are military people? These are militias. These are thugs.
That guy was a thug, and Rustam Ghazali was.
So we're still the same. What you suffer from and what I suffer from and what people like us suffer from is that you see the potential.
Yeah.
And you see that the obstacle between your country, your society, your people, who are, and when I say my people, I'm talking about all Lebanese.
Yeah.
There's a huge obstacle standing between us and the potential of what this country could be or where it goes.
Yeah.
And this potential and this obstacle is a militia mindset now, still combined with arms. I think if you take out the arms parameter from the equation, I think it becomes easier to overcome the obstacle.
Absolutely.
Because
I agree with
arms
you.
eventually they'll become obsolete. And I think you can see it.
Yes.
You're smart enough to see that now all the missiles that Hezbollah have cannot get us wheat. They cannot get us mazout. They made a huge issue about the mazout.
Yeah.
Economically speaking now.
Yeah.
Was that a success?
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Even their own, I have plenty of friends in the Shia community, and they make fun of them is that, you went to get us mazout and it was more expensive than what the Dawla was bringing in.
That's true. Yeah.
So at one point, arms become obsolete. Arms don't win wars. Arms win battles. You can win, with a rifle you can win one battle, maximum two. But you want to win a war, it's with this and with money.
I appreciate you even letting me ask you something that is far bigger than both of us in our abilities. I know geopolitics is not the subject most MPs want to touch. I know that long-term systemic failure is not something that most candidates want to get themselves into because there are very local concerns that are pressing, and I appreciate that. At the same time, I'm glad that we can even talk about those bigger problems because I think it would be a mistake to ignore what didn't work before and repeat a familiar pattern. So I appreciate you even opening up about things like Hezbollah. But let's go from that very problematic chapter to something that I think you're a household name, if you will, on this subject, on waste management, on your demand that it becomes something sustainable in this country, that we don't just throw our trash into the sea. I saw the British Hamoud dump grow in the last 2 years. I can see it growing. And, now you take it for granted that there's just no system to deal with this you just throw it. And I think this is something that's so tragic, and we're paying such a high price. And obviously it causes illness. It makes our living environment unbearable.
Economic loss.
So
huge economic loss.
I know this superficial stuff. I'd like you, if you could, to take me to when you decided to take what could have been a career in the US, because I remember this. You studied in New Jersey.
Yep.
You got awards for your work, and then you take that kind of, perhaps those skill sets, you bring them back to Lebanon, and you know that this country doesn't allow for people like you to flourish easily. So maybe you could take me back to the beginning. What drove you to come
there
back?
are two awards that are really close to my heart that I really love.
Yes.
One is from the American Society of Agriculture Engineers.
Okay.
Agriculture engineers.
Yes.
For work we did tying waste management to agriculture. And this is my bread and butter right now.
Yeah.
And another one, it's called Energy Globe, and this was we won that in Austria.
Okay.
And this was for the EcoBoard technology. This is transforming plastic bags into panel boards.
Right.
And then we use those panel boards to do vertical farming.
Right.
Tying it again to agriculture. Actually, I was slated to be drafted into the U.S. Navy.
Oh wow!
when I finished Rutgers, yeah.
Oh,
and to go study nuclear engineering, and I said no, and my professor went crazy. He said, "Listen, this is a lifetime opportunity." I said, "Jack," his name was Jack. I said, "Jack, do you think I'm slated for a military career? You know me. You've been my mentor the last 4 years."
Yeah.
And then he shut up شوية, and then he said, "Yeah, you're right. Go be happy."
Oh, that's great advice.
He said, "Go be happy." And he said, "If you want to live a headache-free life, don't buy a boat, don't own a restaurant, and don't buy a Porsche." And I said, "Okay, I understand the boat part, I understand the restaurant part, but why don't buy a Porsche?" He says, "It attracts the wrong kind of women."
Wow. Do you have Jack's number? I could.
Jack is dead. This is to his wherever you are, Jack. Thank you
to Jack.
Exactly.
Thankfully, I don't have any of those three, so maybe I'm doing okay.
And actually, my brother once got involved in the restaurant business, and I told him, "Listen, Jack Ramus said this," and then he had to sell it because it became a nightmare. And then later he bought a boat.
You're kidding. Oh no!
I said, "Listen, Jack Ramus said that,"
Jack.
And he sold the boat. And
come in.
And he sold the boat. And now, so far, he's not buying a Porsche.
I should learn from now.
So coming back to waste management, you know that the controversy that I've been fought for is claiming zero waste.
Right. Right.
People don't believe that, especially people in relevant ministries, whatever, what's the CDR or what have you, because they, first of all, none of them has worked in the private sector, and none of them has worked in research.
Right.
I've spent a lot of money developing plastic extrusion. This is the technology we use for the manhole covers,
right,
or to make benches, or to make it. But I was fortunate enough to study with people like Jack and Dr. Gilbert and what have you, and these guys back in the early 90s were developing the philosophy of not throwing anything anymore.
In the 90s in the US.
Yeah.
Okay, so it had already taken a massive
It started in the 60s in California,
right.
by the way.
Yeah. That's interesting.
You have whole university departments digging up landfills on the West Coast.
Right.
And doing all kinds of interesting research.
But can you remind me, I tried remembering this. In the early 90s, post-war, what was the situation like for us in dealing with waste? Was that Costa Brava? Was it starting already?
The landfill was...
it was the Green Line. The Normandy dump.
Normandy.
Right, of course.
It was Normandy.
So that's but post-war, was it still Normandy?
Yeah, because we were coming from both sides of town.
And
and then when Hariri came,
yeah,
and they said, this is the extension of the capital. We cannot. They started Burj Hamoud. This was version 1.
I see. So Burj Hamoud, 92. So pre-92, we were still tossing our trash into the Green Line and Normandy dump.
Not just trash.
Everything.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, what would be?
They were knocking off people and throwing them there during the war.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. No, I meant so in the early phase post-war, 92, Burj Hamoud becomes
until 97.
Until 97.
And then the scenario played out. People got sick and tired of seeing other people's waste coming to their region. Mm-hmm. They blocked the road and they said, "Listen, no more."
Yeah.
So they went to Niamey.
Niamey, of course. Niamey was the second dump.
Yeah. And Niamey was supposed to be there for like 3 to 5 years. Stay there for 20. And then people, Ronnie, it's the exact same freaking scenario that played out in Bush Hamoud.
Yeah.
People went down the streets and said, listen, we don't want other people's waste dumped in our areas.
Is Costa Brava linked to Niamey? Is it? It's more or less.
No,
Yeah.
Adena, they closed Niamey.
Oh.
We had the trash crisis.
Right. Yeah.
A year and a half. No plan B.
Yeah.
Okay? Waste management is an industry.
Yeah.
If you want to manage waste, you have to prepare.
Of course.
You have to design factories, you have to
Yeah.
get machines, and those machines are not sitting on a shelf somewhere,
course. Yeah.
You're going to have to ask people to build them for you.
Yeah. So Costa Brava came third.
So what happened?
Yeah.
A year and a half of trash on the streets.
Yes, the use sting.
And
approach.
exactly.
Yeah.
And what happened? People in charge were begging regions to take the waste of Beirut.
Right.
If you remember, Mashnou went all the way up to Akkar and says, hey, would you accept our waste? We'll pay you.
Yeah.
We promise you, we do this, we do that. And my concern was, it is not feasible, even if you have space. What you will do, can you imagine hauling 1,200 tons of waste per day over the highway from Beirut all the way up north to Akkar? It's a nightmare.
Wow.
It's a nightmare. So they said, okay, fine, no one wants our waste. Thank God. Thank God no one accepted. And now no one will ever accept, especially.
Right.
So they said, okay, let's figure out, along sectarian lines. So we will send the Christian part waste to Burj Hamoud,
right.
And then we'll expand it a bit into Jdeidi. Now the problem you have is Jdeidi.
Of course, yeah.
The mountain that you are seeing growing, it's in Jdeidi now.
Yeah.
And they said, okay, let's do Costa Brava. Aslan, Costa Brava was used as a dump for the 2006 demolition and debris.
Of course, right. So Costa Brava was already...
It was already a slated,
yes.
Right. And of course, both of them, لأنه, like truly, you think you might say this guy is crazy. I promise you, there is no sectarian ideology in Lebanon. ما في. I don't care if you are Shia, Druze, Sunni, whatever. I don't care. And I'm sure you do not care too, if whatever I am.
Yeah.
All right? Okay? مش لأنه نحن we're because the nature of the conflict is not ideological.
I didn't even know until it was announced when you were running. I had to look at which seat.
Running for the...
Yeah, I would have actually... I would have never known. I would have never even thought of it. Yeah. And then I saw it. I was like, oh.
I love that. I really, people think I'm Sunni. People think I'm Shia. Some of them thought I was Druze.
Yeah.
We're all the same.
Cool.
So coming back to this, it wasn't along sectarian lines. It was along regional lines where both parties in charge wanted to benefit from the real estate. This is where they were going with it.
Did this in a way push you? Because when you came back to this country post-war, after studying in the US, and you saw what was already a bad situation getting worse in terms of waste management, did this motivate you to take initiative on your own? Because I don't know anyone else other than yourself who has done this as a full-time pursuit. I know other NGOs that came and went. I know other names that sort of tried and failed. But yours is over a decade-long journey. And
we're not an NGO.
And you're not, exactly.
We're an engineering company.
Right.
But I had no choice, Ronnie.
But take me into what you thought of in terms of your own individual agency, what you thought you could do on your own, while the system did not permit you to do more.
Yeah.
Because obviously you can't stop waste from going to Burj Hamoud. None of us can actually do that ourselves. This is a political problem.
It's a concerted effort as well.
Exactly. So was it that you wanted to try anyway?
Exactly. And this is how I went to Jnoub. There was no room for me in Beirut and Mount Lebanon.
I see.
Everybody was under a very strict, closed contract with Suklin.
Of course.
And I could not break through.
So
the only way we were able to break through in Beit Miri, it was during the trash crisis.
Right.
The Suclean contract de facto broke. The contract broke. They said, "Khalas, we have no space to take your garbage to."
Yeah.
So, and this is how they called me from Beit Miri and they said, "Listen, we have this problem. Trash is on the street. Can you help us solve it?" And I said, "Do you have land?" They said, "Yeah, well, we do have land, but it's a dump and whatever."
Yeah, yeah.
And believe it or not, we built only 1/3. We were able to build only 1/3 of the design in Beit Miri.
Oh.
So we have 2/3 of the operation is done outside because it's a landfill. It's a minor detail, but
so they designed it as a landfill, and then they gave
please don't use design and landfill.
Sorry, you're right. Yeah.
Same.
They designated
exactly. It's a designated dumping area.
Designated dumping area.
And there was a huge scandal about that. Actually, Anyway, we'll talk about it some other time.
Let's say that's post 2015, where the Houston crisis is taking over the country. The Lebanese government cannot handle it. And I remember there's trash everywhere. We had that river of trash as well. And then you decide to do something with Beit Miri. Is that the first real attempt at local community politics in your career? And did that sort of inspire you to enter politics? Because I'm trying to figure out what's taking somebody like you, who's an expert and a enthusiast and motivated, to go down the road of parliament and ignoring obviously the catastrophe that happened. And I know that October 17 played a role in all of our lives, but is 2015 really the spark for you?
No, it was before.
It was before. Okay.
It was before, because you see a badly managed file, and this is what pains you.
Yeah.
You can do better.
Yeah.
We have potential. That we can make so much fertilizer out of our own waste instead of importing it and sending our dollars abroad. We can create so many plastics recycling venues and also create economic activity and also export this stuff and bring more hard currency to them.
Yeah.
Because you've done it, because you've tried it.
But that's an engineer that is good at their job and sees the problem. But going into politics, is there a moment that you thought...
I saw that eventually I will run out of work.
Oh.
If they stayed...
Oh, that's interesting.
If we leave them in charge...
Yeah.
If we leave them in charge... we will all be out of work. All. Even you.
Yeah.
Even, khalas. It's... In microbiology, when they taught us about viruses, there are two kinds of viruses, usually.
Yeah.
Okay? Corona was a parasitic virus. A parasitic virus would come onto you, and you're the host.
Yeah.
And he would draw from you until it kills you.
Right.
Once it kills you, it moves on to another host.
Yeah.
So it's a parasitic relationship. There are viruses that engage in what we call a symbiotic relationship. A symbiose or a symbiotic relationship.
Where they're both kind of living together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The virus lives on you, but lets you live.
Right.
Because once you live, it lives.
Yeah.
It doesn't
need
to kill you.
It dies with
exactly.
you. Yeah.
Or it needs to go find another host.
Right, yeah.
Okay? We are run by a parasitic virus.
I was wondering which one was going to be. I was like, oh, right, it's the first one.
We are... This is... I saw that our political class is a parasitic virus. It will kill us all. They don't know the problem is. They don't even realize.
But I'm wondering...
Because this is all they're used to.
But you didn't run with earlier groups in their... Even in municipal elections, you were not...
Nothing.
But I think the journey you were on, which is community-based facilitation, would lend itself well to the municipal level. Was there any attempt in your life to think about working with the Beirut municipality or trying to run for elections?
I did work 9 years with the Beirut municipality.
9? Okay.
I was in charge of the slaughterhouse waste.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Beirut municipality, my friend, used to have the largest slaughterhouse in Lebanon, in the Quarantine.
Yeah, which used to smell like heaven on earth.
And you know why? Because they had two kinds of waste. They had the hard waste, which were the bones. They would dump in the backyard and they would burn. This is what you smelled.
Oh, that was the stench.
Oh, yes.
It was the burning.
Oh, yeah, burning of bones. You're burning calcium.
Wow.
One, which is a huge fertilizer, by the way, if you properly manage it. And get this, they would take the soft part, which means the stomach, the intestines, whatever, and they would dump it into the river.
Oh, Beirut River?
Oh, yeah.
Right here? You're kidding me.
Oh, no. And then the river takes it down to the sea. And I remember like the first time they called me and they said, "Hey, can you come take a look?"
But please don't look too close because you'll be scared.
Oh man, I took a picture of their backyard. And when I give lectures in universities or in schools, and I, how you put like, now like on Instagram they blur the picture and they say sensitive content, beware. So before I get to that slide, I tell everybody, listen, you're gonna puke your hearts out now. But this is how it was then.
Ziad, is it really? They just throw it into the river?
Oh yeah.
Wow, I didn't. Okay.
Listen, I'm telling you, it's a decaying system.
But when you see these horrible images, you realize that this is not a local problem. This is a systemic problem. So
mentality. It's a mentality.
But could you identify that moment that you saw yourself heading to Parliament, or is it a step by step?
It wasn't long ago, actually.
Okay.
It wasn't long ago.
Yeah.
It was when the financial crisis lent itself to a conclusion for you is that, guys, this is free fall. And they're running the crisis in a really mean way.
Yeah.
They don't, it's like the captain of the ship, you're in a storm and the captain is trying to kill you.
Yeah, that's actually...
You're a burden on the ship for him. His job is to save your life, even at the cost of losing the ship. But we want all passengers to live.
That's actually funny. Yeah. I wonder who the captain is in this.
Let's not name names.
Yeah. No, but okay. Yeah. So I appreciate you telling me a bit about your backstory, and I didn't know that you were in the slaughterhouse.
I was telling you that because I interacted with a lot of municipalities in Jnoub, in Jabal, in Beirut, in Jbail. We're all the same shit, man. It's the all same shitty mentality of I take.
Yeah.
I never give anything back.
I'll push one more step forward, then we can get into decentralization because that's interesting. You in Parliament with people that you identify with in a small block, do you really think that those aspirations which you described can translate into power? I'm sorry I keep going back to this, but I'll give you an analogy.
I'll give you a preview of my plan.
Yeah.
Let's say
I've been as hard on everyone, by the way, running. So I don't. This is not meant to be personal.
No. I'm enjoying this extremely well. My plan.
Yes.
Remember, I worked locally a lot.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. There's nothing in the law preventing me from being a member of Parliament and then deciding that I want to do something for Ashrafiyya. Or for Jemaize even,
right.
Or for Mar Mikhail.
Yeah.
Okay, I can see Mar Mikhail as a lush green street where at least 2 days a week no cars pass by, and on the weekend we want to see all bars, restaurants, bakeries, what have you. They put their tables on the damn freaking street in the middle of the street, and then it's a walkway for everybody, and then we work, we eat, we enjoy life, we drink, anything, okay? This is one, I don't want to say that this is one of my grandiose plans because this is so easy to do. But I don't know why no one thinks about it.
So you could theoretically be in Parliament and focus in on a municipal angle
theoretically, this is what I'm going to do.
Oh, I see.
I want to work with Beirut Municipality. I want to push.
okay, yeah.
I want to push for a forensic audit of Beirut municipality.
I see. Yeah.
Your money, my
Yeah,
money
yeah,
is
yeah.
where is it going? Why is this city in shambles?
Yeah.
And we pay huge municipal taxes. Where is that money going? And I know from the inside where it's going. It's all corruption. It's all corruption.
And being in parliament can help you advance that.
Inta, you know, as a member of parliament, legally, you are in charge of defending the public coffers, the public money.
Right. Yes.
So Inta, as a member of parliament,
it's your job.
you can call the المدعي العام or the prosecutor,
Yes.
the general prosecutor, and say, listen, as my role as a public servant, I am telling you that I saw such and such, and I think and I think you should send someone and start investigation. And if that leads you somewhere else, if that leads you down the road to something substantial, I'm willing to work with you on it. This is one of your roles. You're a public servant.
I will offer this analogy only because you're both in the same. You're competing for the same seat, and this is actually just a chance that I interviewed Nadim Jmail. I think last Sunday was his episode. So it's a recent episode. He's running for the same seat, the Maronite seat, and I'm not going to try to compare, but I'll just offer one example. My memory of his career in Parliament was trying to get anti-smoking legislation passed, and he could not get it far, but restaurants started trying to zone. Within maybe a few weeks, the whole effort was thrown away. But I thought that the attempt was actually correct, that he was trying to make this, which is...
That was a tough fight, by the way.
A tough fight.
He's going up against Big Tobacco.
Exactly. But it's the tough fight that you don't win. And in Nadim Jmail's case, it's not something... you cannot put that as a success story on his resume.
They had a small win, actually. You don't see smoking advertisement anymore. We used to have them.
Oh, that was part of the... I didn't know that. Okay.
You remember the Marlboro Man?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, he was...
Yeah.
محله اللي يسهنكش هلا. I think
Exactly.
على الأوتوستراد أنت اللي
Exactly.
I think it's the same building. Yeah.
This was the consequences of the law.
Okay, but let's say that's...
But now, again, on the books.
Yeah.
On the books, any municipal agent can go into any restaurant and see people smoking inside.
That's
and
true.
they can find them.
The implementation is probably down at 0%.
Exactly.
So do you think that you have an advantage because you're not affiliated with a party, that you're an independent mind, that there's no Zaim the way you described it, that you'd be able to do something with more effect than what he was able to do with that?
I will draw on my background as an industrial engineer. And there's always a third alternative. I think that law, they should have categories of restaurants where smoking is allowed. So you as a customer who doesn't smoke, on your way in, it should be clear for you that this is a smoking place. Okay? Or maybe we can create what we call smoking clubs where they serve food.
Right,
okay?
right. Yeah,
but as someone who doesn't smoke, I want to go have my hummus somewhere where no one is blowing his argili up my nose.
Absolutely.
Okay? So, now, to make... After all, we want everybody to work, right?
Yeah.
We want to get that economic wheel turning and churning. Okay? I'm up for we rediscuss that law and we create a new category with the Ministry of Tourism. Smoking clubs that serves food.
Right. Yeah.
And we apply the law then everywhere else.
But in the bigger sense, is there an advantage that you have by not being with an old party that has a more familiar structure, the way you described it? That you're, let's assume you are more independent minded. Would you have the upper hand in trying to do something like that? Or forget non-smoking issues? Just
you know why?
Yeah.
Because I'm not interested in any sum of money to buy my vote. I'm not running for parliament to get rich or to steal from the public coffers. Actually, I'm taking a step back financially.
I think all of us are, by the way.
And I promise, I have 52 families at my charge in my company. And I promise them that, my running for parliament will not take away from your livelihood. I will split my time in a way that, we will. And also don't forget, we spent a lot of money developing stuff. So, and and look at what's really funny for me is that, we're on the brink of the worst trash crisis. And if I'm in parliament, my company cannot partake in this because that would be a huge conflict of interest.
Right, of course, yes.
So what's going to happen is that I'm going to have to teach them how to do that.
Let's go down the road of decentralization, which has been a topic everyone's discussed, I think, probably since the formation of modern Lebanon, but more recently. It's oftentimes, I think, misunderstood, and it's thrown into the federalist conversation, which I don't think, that's not the right way of...
Exactly.
Yeah. But decentralization is seen, I think, by many...
It's purely managerial, by the way.
Exactly. And majority, I think, of October 17 affiliated groups are happy to discuss it. But what is waste management and decentralization together? And is it just municipal authority? Is it qada authority? What does it look like?
Yeah. Actually, my plan for solving the waste crisis over Lebanon, the whole territory of Lebanon, we have 26 administrative areas, which is the qada.
Yeah.
26 of them. And usually a truly decentralized system, this is where you have local management.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
The manager of the qada now is called qa'im maqam.
Right.
Okay?
Yes.
But it's a fictitious, inefficient.
Is it more symbolic anyway?
Exactly. It's something we got from the Ottomans.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
And he's appointed. He's not elected.
Right.
Okay.
Of course.
So we have to scrap that.
Yeah.
Eventually, if we want true decentralization, first of all, we're going to have a strong central government.
Right.
You cannot have decentralization
without
because most of the parties now are calling for decentralization because they want their own canton.
Yeah, this
is what they think.
And that's
this is
federalism
what they want.
conversation more,
exactly.
right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they can call it whatever they want,
right.
As long as, they have their own area and their own money coffers, money streaming in, whatever هذا خلاص إنه نحن we are in charge and they know that they can rig all the elections and they can do. This is why you need a good central government. You need a strong central government, at least to be a fair arbitrator.
Right.
At least to run decent elections.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
So, what you do on a qada level, you say, your waste is your own shit. You have to deal with your own shit. You cannot take your shit and give it to and dump it onto other people's lands.
Is that going to be on a poster somewhere?
Yeah.
Ziad Abi.
Deal with your own shit.
Are there any banners of you yet?
I'm here to help you deal with your own shit. No, actually, I'm against banners.
Okay, good.
Actually, I was against paper posters. And
okay.
Thank
God. I was going to ask you that. Actually, that's why I asked. Yeah. How open are you?
And we still gonna go down after the elections, and everybody's printing on plastic now. So, but we, I promise you, and I promise everybody hearing us that on the 21st, I think it was like the Sunday after.
Yes.
Yep. We're gonna go down. We're gonna take everything down. And if it's paper, we'll send it to a paper recycling plant. And if it's plastic, I promise you, I will cover more manhole covers from recycling these posters.
But Ziad, I will say something. You're the only person I know. I think you are the only person in this country who's doing two things at once. Taking it upon yourself to go fix problems that are on the street.
Exactly.
They're not your problem to fix, but you're fixing it.
Yeah.
And you're doing it because you think the community should be able to live a fairly functional life and not die because of a manhole. And you do it on your own.
And this is why I decided to come back and live here.
So you've got.
I want to contribute. That's all. It gives me satisfaction.
You've got the energy for it, and you've got also the curiosity and better governance when it comes to waste management. And
I don't like nagging.
You don't like nagging. And I sense you're somebody who likes to talk to find answers, not talking just for the sake of talking. And I will say, I watch your podcast, Mumkin. I actually have checked out a few episodes. I know that you're about to go record.
Yeah.
But I know that you're looking for ways out. You're not just here to talk endlessly.
Third alternative. I'm always looking for the third alternative.
Third alternative. But
even the Slah of Hezbollah, it's hard. It's tough. It's very messy. But there is a third alternative.
We will end with the third alternative for that issue, because that's something I want to hear. Yeah. Actually, you're the first person in over 300 episodes to even suggest this. So we'll end with that. But when it comes to, you are among friends in parliament, whether it's 10, 15, or even who cares, the number could be the majority. How does that decentralization take hold? Because I can't imagine, and it's maybe my prejudice, I can't imagine geographies in this country adjusting themselves in a more efficient way, the way you're describing it. It's just something that I can't even see it.
Yeah.
So what does that look
like? You're right, actually, not to see it.
Yeah. So is it a...
But I saw it. I saw it because I dealt with... I've practically sat down with every municipality president the last 30 years.
Yeah.
Okay. There's one thing you have to keep in mind. Municipalities are extensions of the local political parties.
That's true.
They bring their own people.
That's true.
So they bring their own mindset.
Yeah.
It's very rare that you have municipalities that, So, if the whole system is crumbling and the whole political, they can't do anything. We could lose the elections, and they can have 128 parliamentarians on May 16th.
Right. That's true.
Let's go through this simulation.
So it's zero at the end.
يا خيي ما ربحنا شيء.
Yeah.
Right? ما ربحنا شيء. طلعنا عيطنا وصرخنا, we campaigned, whatever, and we lost.
Kataib and Uwait and these independents are not in the discussion. October 17, zero.
Exactly.
That's possible.
It's possible.
Yeah.
على فكرة Uwait and all the others, they're part of the system. Let's not kid ourselves.
Sure. But I'm also even going a step further. Michel Maouad, Namet Frem, the independents, forget them too.
Exactly.
October 17.
So, أنت خيي, in your view, what will happen to electric power? ماشي. What will happen to the depositors' money? ماشي. What will happen to the internet? It's going to get worse. What will happen with the economic life? ماشي. ليش? The structure is bankrupt.
بس أنت بالparliament, well, let's say 15.
Okay.
How can you get
I want
decentralization
in
waste management?
أول شيء decentralization in waste management, we said before.
No, but
we're going to be forced into it. ليك شو رح يصير? Ramco's and City Blues contracts, they will end in 11 months.
Oh, okay.
Okay, we're already too late, على فكرة.
Yeah.
So they will end in 11 months. The government is bankrupt. هلا you see the trash now. They did not run out of space. They ran out of money. They are paying them at a rate that they cannot operate.
Right.
Okay, they need to pay these poor foreign workers in dollars.
Yeah.
Okay, and whatever the government and BDL is giving them, they cannot operate.
Right.
This is also an industry. They have maintenance. They pay all their spare parts in cash dollars.
Right.
Okay. So now what you are saying is the economic aspect of the crisis. Later on, you're gonna see the technical aspect of the crisis. They run out of space. We don't have space in the landfills anymore.
Right.
So what's gonna happen? We're going to say, listen, guys, this old model is not working. It is not logical at bring down waste from Faraya to Jdeidi.
Of course.
So Faraya and neighbors, deal with your own shit. June and neighbors, deal with your own shit. Jabal, Hone, Alay, whatever, deal with your... Everybody's going to have to deal with their own shit. لأنه no one will accept waste anymore. And it's fair. It's fair.
Is that a law implementation, or is that just a final outcome of
It's a de facto on the ground.
I see.
ليش? People have lost trust completely.
Yeah.
And 2016 was a preview. When Mashnouk went to Akkar to say this, they said no.
It's true.
خلاص.
It's true.
Trust has been lost.
Yeah.
Okay? So now, what's going to happen? Trash is not going to stop, by the way. You know that.
Yeah.
رح نضل نطلع زبالة.
Of course. Yeah.
Listen, I make real quick note. I went to Denmark to do a documentary about incinerators because they were gonna bring an incinerator to Beirut, and we were against it.
Right.
In Denmark, their public announcement messages about sorting waste are ongoing since 39 years. It's ongoing.
Our discussion about waste incinerators was, I think, 2 months long in 2015-16. I remember 17. I remember the crowd that emerged, the Beirut Medinati crowd that emerged from the protests, were the most vocal against it. And it obviously didn't happen. But short of something that radical, which is also problematic, can you envision waste management actually becoming something more tolerable in the near future? Because I sense what you're describing is further collapse and then a de facto outcome, which is decentralization. And then you start picking up the pieces. But that could be years from now. It's not necessarily something that we will...
No. Because waste doesn't stop. You don't have the luxury of time with waste.
Right?
Yeah. Yani, let's say Beirut, they generate 500 tons per day. Every day you are late.
500 tons per
day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So now, every late 24 hours, you're adding to your back 500 tons.
Right.
So this is why I always keep telling people, you need to plan ahead.
Yeah.
Once shit hits the fan,
right,
it's going to be 500 tons every 24 hours.
I think the way you're describing it is the way a politician could lobby a population to take this seriously. Because I don't think any politician has ever effectively described waste management the way you have.
Actually, on the Mumkin podcast, probably in a week or 10 days, we're going to run a simulation to let people start sorting their waste in view of the coming crisis.
Oh, interesting.
2-bag system.
A 2-bag system.
Please, just sort your trash in the 2-bag system. If you can afford to buy a black roll of bags and a blue roll of bags, please put your recyclables in the blue and put your organics in the black. If you cannot, doesn't matter, just separate them.
Yeah.
And I know that for now, Ramco is going to come take everything and put it in that truck and bail it and ruin it. But listen, 11 months, we need to start practicing for the 12 months. What's going to happen after they stop? We don't want to go through another trash crisis.
I'll be frank. This is my limited experience. I know I'm being a bit subjective. Without penalty, it's hard to imagine these things taking hold. I remember growing up in the U.S. in the younger years of my life, where you'd get fined if you threw batteries, for example, or if you threw paper with your regular trash, or if you had compost mixed up with other things. There were penalties, and you'd actually get a fine in the mail. Now,
a couple of years ago, I was driving in Massachusetts, and I was reading the no littering sign. Do you know what's the fine in Massachusetts?
Something like $5,000.
$10,000.
$10,000. Yeah, there you go. So there's a $10,000 fee. That's a car, price of a new car. If you flick your cigarette.
Littering.
Yeah.
خلاص. Anything. Right. It could be a burger or a cigarette butt.
Now that's maybe the more extreme sense, but there's a penalty. You have countries that have implemented outrageous fines. I mean, Singapore is notorious for being brutal. But in this country, when it comes to law implementation and then penalty implementation, I just don't see certain things taking hold.
Yeah, it's going to take time.
Yeah, and it's not the same story, but the seatbelt situation, there were checkpoints for a day. The traffic lights, remember those radars that were installed?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're all gone. The speeding tickets, I don't think they're even being collected anymore. There's, I think...
But see, all these are symptoms of the crumbling structure.
Absolutely, yeah. But I don't want to be bleak, but I think the things like this probably are the last to be solved as the structure reemerges from a nightmare. And then society begins to appreciate what it's lost over time. And I think we're no different than anyone in Massachusetts. It's just that they've got something that they can lean on better and a system that functions and a penalty that means something.
Actually, I was really shocked that they have to levy such high fines.
Yeah.
Because you would want to think, oh, they're
Sure.
they're structured, they're aware, they don't do this.
But I'd bet even without that sign, nobody's littering anymore.
It becomes second nature.
Second nature. And Germany has the most complicated bins on earth, but it's second nature to them.
Of course.
Let's go and end with the third alternative you mentioned. That's something that interests me. A third alternative to deal with Hezbollah's weapons. What is that?
What's the first alternative?
The first alternative. Okay, that's interesting.
I mean, what's the first choice now that's being done? You have politicians going up and say, we're gonna kill you. So basically, what you would wanna, if you have like 2 ounces of logic. So what these people are saying, we're gonna find an foreign entity. They're gonna arm us, and then we're gonna kill you. Okay, this is one. Let's say we're brainstorming. Okay?
Sure, yeah.
How can we deal with the arms of Hezbollah? First of all, we get armed, and we whatever exactly. So it's a civil war.
Change the date.
For you, that's not an option. For me, it's not an option. It's not an option.
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
we're not gonna kill each other over that.
Yeah.
All right. This is one. Second choice you have. Okay, you say, I want to talk to you. I want to sit on a negotiating table. But he's way stronger than you are, right?
Yeah.
He's way stronger than you are. So you're negotiating from a lower. You have no leverage. Let's put it this way. You have no leverage. But again, we said that arms only win battles. They don't win wars.
Yeah.
And I see this argument all over the news sometimes, and people on the street saying, "Oh, in Dahi they get paid in dollars, and everybody is fine." No, Dahi is not the paradise. But I know Dahi. I have friends, and I know what they go through. It's even harder for the grand population, and it's not being run. Again, I say a militia cannot give. So, and I've heard their perspective sometimes.
Yeah.
We and this was plain out, and even on the news. We are looking for a partner that would not stab us in the back, and then arms are negotiable. I've heard that.
Sorry, we are looking for a partner.
We are looking for a local partner that will not stab us in the back if we lay down the arms.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
We are willing to negotiate.
Who's floating that idea?
It is a Hezbollah camp.
Oh, but I think that's the usual sort of...
okay, but no one took him to their word yet.
Yeah, but that's the Babda declaration stuff. That's the we will sign papers but not implement. That's the or even the old.
بس ما تنسى what's the parallel line going now? We're going through economic demise. Do you think if they could use let's also simulate. Let's say if they can use their missiles somehow, would the economic situation improves?
No, but what it does, and I'm going to introduce this gift, which is something you shouldn't have done. It's very sweet of you. You brought glass to replace a light that crashed during the podcast, and it's going to now become part of the podcast. I'll find its home. What they can do is actually destroy our lives. And I don't know if this is glass from the infijar, from the blast.
It could be.
It could be?
Yeah.
I've seen some of your work from glass from the blast. What they can do is make life unbearable. And
why?
Because we're still part.
What's their motive? they are in the same sinking ship that we are all in. Their problem is that I know that environment very well. I lived 9 years and I worked there and I have friends and I know what pains them. I know it. They know that they cannot go the economic recovery route without you, without me, without everybody.
Right.
They cannot.
Right. That's true.
Let's use that as leverage.
Yeah.
Okay. But not, let's say, without being condescending. Can we do that?
I would go a different direction. And I mean, we can. This is a. What did you say?
We agree that they can no longer keep their arms unchecked. Right?
For me, that's a principle that cannot be negotiated.
It's universal,
and it's something. If you're willing to accept it, it means you're missing such a huge part of the problem. But I'll go a slightly different direction. I don't see it as a population or even a segment of society or a confession or a neighborhood or a region. I see it as how to figure out on a local level, whether it's an MP entering parliament, whether it's a political party emerging, or whether it's an old political party with banners all over the highway, all over the country. I don't know how to negotiate an end to Iran's security interests in Lebanon on a local level with Hezbollah. I just don't know how that can be done. What I could imagine, which is taking the conversation in a slightly different direction, is a local aspiration to find an answer to Iran's security needs and for us to be part of the conversation. But that requires Iran letting go. And I just don't see local aspirations from good people getting far with that burden. You know, you mentioned something earlier.
That's a good podcast for you, man.
Well, that's
find someone from that perspective who's open enough to come sit here and debate that with you. I think that would be a great podcast.
I've had the most intellectual conversations with they're not Hezbollah supporters, but Jad Ghussan, who's curious in his attempt. I think he's found a way that suits him, it makes sense to him, at trying to solve that problem in a third alternative. Tonight it's going to come out.
Jad is smart, actually.
Jad is smart.
I hope to God Jad wins, because I think if we have someone like Jad in the parliament, I think we have plenty to do. But
I've asked him the same curious question, and I don't think his answers are adequate. And that's a personal take on his answer. Tonight, this episode will come out Sunday. Wednesday evening, in a few minutes actually, Shab al-Nahas's episode will come out, and I spent an hour trying to get to the bottom of that issue. I don't think anyone in this country, whether their intentions are good or bad, whether their new parties are old, or whether they're new names or old names, have the capacity to end Iran's security in Lebanon.
Okay, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, but if I would like to be one of the negotiators with Hezbollah. I think they would listen to me, and I would listen to them, because they don't pay me. They don't give me any leverage. Or, you know, I've had like some really tough discussions with them, going back and forth. Especially that conversation where the rifle and the missile only wins a few battles, never wins a war. I would like to sit down with them and really find out if they are this entrenched with Iran or not. Because if they are entrenched that much with Iran, and then whatever Iran says goes, then we're in deep shit, and we have a fourth alternative to look for.
That's interesting. I appreciate your willingness to even go down another
lake.
Yeah.
No civil war. This is the constraint.
Yeah.
we don't want to see. ما حدا له مصلحة.
Hey, I don't think will ever happen again.
Okay,
And
well,
the reason
thank you.
No, but the reason is not necessarily a good one. Is that what Hezbollah today represents is not a civil war militia. It's a security situation. And they will never tolerate a real threat against their presence. So civil war, I don't think can happen given the current status. But I would like to see less prejudice against anyone living anywhere in the country. People in Dahi are suffering more than people in Beirut.
Bravo.
And Shia of Lebanon are no different than the Sunnis or whatever you want.
Exactly.
Maronite, that stuff should be tossed aside. But if Hezbollah...
We've all been robbed.
We've all been robbed.
We've all been abused by a political system.
Absolutely, but Hezbollah needs to reform. And the first step in reforming is letting go of its relationship with a very destructive security disorder that has taken us to hell. And I think local actors should be winning rather than losing. And when they make it to parliament or anywhere, the cabinet or whatever post, they should be able to do stuff and not fail and frustrate.
But see here, you meet my point there.
Yeah.
When you say they need to let go, right? When you let go, let's do an analogy with like a romantic relationship, right?
Sure.
So you've been in a toxic relationship and somehow you need to let go.
We've both been married and we're both divorced. So
Now,
I know where you're going with
this. Exactly. The easiest way to let go is what? Is to find another partner. You find another partner where you see the potential of building a less toxic relationship. Listen, have you been to Aitaroun, Bint Jbail, whatever?
Bint Jbail,
no.
It's been years.
All right, fine.
It's been a few years. I haven't been to the south.
You know why I don't worry? You know, I hear it a lot on the streets. Is that they're Iranians? They've become Iranians. They're Iranians.
No, it's not true. That's not true.
Listen, I will worry when I go to Bint Jbail or go to Aitaroun and see one of those elders there singing Ateba in Persian. When that happens, I will worry. If it doesn't happen, then I have the moral responsibility and they have the moral responsibility to sit down and talk it over. And if I want to ask them to let go, I want them to feel and know that I could be an alternative relationship, that I will not stab them in the back, and that they are part of this Lebanese mosaic. And you are right. Like, I lived the Christian epitome of force.
Yeah.
It was like 79, 89. And then we had the Sunni epitome of force, right? هذا فائد القوة, they call it. Okay, we had a Christian one, we had a Sunni, and now we are going through the Shia one. But if you look back into history, what happens to the فائد قوة مسيحي? What happened to the فائد قوة Sunni? I bet you the same thing is going to happen to the فائد قوة Shia.
I've heard. We'll end it on this note because that's a nice way to wrap it up. This is something this should be a book. What you just laid out is exactly the opposite way I see Lebanon. And it's 2 stories, there's 2 chapters, but it's the same book. And maybe sometimes it's the same chapter written differently. What I see is a Christian population that armed itself due to an external threat in Lebanon. And I saw a Sunni population accepting Syria's terms by force. And I see a Shia population that is no different than the Sunni or Christian, under the thumb of Iran and unable to shake that off. And I don't see Christian, Sunni, or Shia moments in Lebanon's history. What I see is the same damn population trying to get out of a geopolitical nightmare that started probably the year you were born. 1969 was the year you were born. That's exactly when it started. So your whole life has been this nightmare. I'm 40. I've never seen a Lebanon that functions on its own. And I insist on something. The Lebanese forces, I know this for a fact. In the 1980s, this is not a friendly militia. It's a brutal militia that ran a canton in the country. They're a brutal militia during war. The tragedy is that the Syrian regime was what disarmed all militia with the exception of Hezbollah.
What was lacking were leaders who are willing to sit down and eat from the same plate and not take everything away. Leaders who would want to accept that you are an equal partner and you have the exact same right into dipping into that hummus plate as much as I have.
Yeah.
We don't have those anymore. We never had them, actually. We never had them. But I think, listen, we're only 100 years old as a state.
It's true.
Eh?
Yeah.
You know what I hear now, because I follow US politics, internal US politics, very closely. They're talking about the Lebanization of the US conflict.
Yeah, that's true. But in that story, I think they have a system that will outweigh all their local problems.
Exactly.
Ours doesn't handle regional problems.
We're too small. We're too small and weak. And the only... the way I see it is the only way to get out of this is that we need to convince each other that we all need each other somehow. And you cannot do it now with the Fa'id al-Qawwa. So we're gonna have to wait شوية where it's gonna abate.
I agree. You're right, and I'm optimistic long term.
Exactly.
I appreciate anyone shedding light or shining light during this dark time. You're doing it very eloquently. I'm inspired by people like you, Ziad. I know it's stupid for me to say this as somebody who's older and wiser and has lived a longer, more fruitful life.
Listen, older doesn't always mean wiser, huh?
Well, that's actually, you're right. But your experiences outweigh mine. I will say that you're able to convince the local and the national, and you're even able to go regional in your politics. And I think your passion is if it's infectious. I like listening to you.
Thank you.
Whether it's on a TED Talk or next to Just Al-Wati or on Facebook or on your podcast. And I'm going to plug it in the episode, Mumkin. I will say that I think this is the kind of way you get to know people best. So I'm glad you're in the podcasting world.
Exactly.
Yeah, I wouldn't have really understood you without this kind of medium. So thank you and good luck these coming weeks. I appreciate you giving me your time during the campaigning season.
This is more important.
And you said
getting to know you actually, and now I have a whole new perspective about you as a person and your politics and how you think and this gives me joy because we're practically all singing to the same frequency.
I agree. 15 years ago or so, you joined my Walk Beirut tour, so I'm glad you reminded me of that. And you said Lebanon is small and weak, but you're big and strong.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, sir. Haha. Thank you. Thanks for listening and watching. And a friendly reminder to support this podcast by contributing through Patreon or PayPal. All links are in the details box. Until next time, I'm Rani Shatah, and this is the Beirut Banyan.